So this session I would be covering more on the use case front. What are the typical use case a Netscaler can help you to identify, and then you can make an optimal use of Netscaler if you had already got through it. Okay. We have a success story very well with Microsoft products, whether it's an Exchange, it's in SharePoint and Link. We do a lot of value add when it comes to this product. When it comes to an Exchange, we can act as a true reverse proxy solution. We can do SSL offload. When it comes for SharePoint, we can do a compression technique, which is the core from the performance perspective. When it comes to a Link, we ensure that the real-time communication between the two users get improved. Okay. Many times we get confused, like if I deploy Netscaler in front of Exchange, what I need to do for compression, what is the policy to be done for caching. So here we have a typical like app expert, what Sheetal has touched base upon it. It's a ready-made template which you can just import it and just configure the IP address and you are ready with it. So this gives you an easy from a configuration perspective, as well as you get all the benefits for which we have deployed this template, whether it's an optimization, it's an offload, etc. So now we say like Zen app, Zen desktop need to be go on the internet. So Netscaler is a true reverse proxy solution which does lot of value add when you have an existing deployment to that environment. One of the typical use case, like if you need to ensure like this Zen app, Zen desktop which are going on the internet for the people to be accessed, you need to have Netscaler in the front which is acting as a reverse proxy. What I mean by is there is no manual client required, it's purely an SSL solution. Okay, once the user get integrated either through AD or using a two-factor authentication, he can seamlessly get redirected to the Zen app and the Zen desktop environment. Now to meet the strong SLAs to ensure that the desktop is always available for the end user, okay, we can have an HA across the Netscaler, as well as we can do a load balancing among the web interface as well as the DDC, which is corely responsible to deliver the desktop and the app. Okay. One of the key differentiator what we try to do as compared to a competitor is we can go into the nitty-gritties of the application and try to monitor it, whether that particular Zen app is able to give me the desktop or the app I am looking it for. Second key thing what I want to highlight to this environment is like if that application is not reachable through either of the web interface or the DDC, Netscaler can on the fly take out that web thing from the pool of the LBV server. So this is done basically because we have a real-time heartbeat which goes to the Zen app to ensure the application is available. So in case of a failure, it is able to detect it, and we ensure that users are always going to the server which is available to them. Third key thing what I want to highlight, suppose if you have a multiple infrastructure of the Zen app and Zen desktop, okay, we can do a global server load balancing. What I mean by this, like you can distribute the load across the two data centers, or you can run them in an active passive. This ensures like the hosted shared desktop or the application virtualization is always available to the end user. And the fourth key thing what we want to highlight is going further, since web interface is the component which get loaded on Windows server, okay, to reduce the TCO, you can get this component deployed on the Netscaler itself. So with this approach, you can do some saving on the licensing when it comes to Microsoft, as well as the web interface get efficient use on the Netscaler itself. With the help of HDX Insight Monitoring, Sheetal has covered a good amount of it, like it will give you real-time analytics tools which helps you to identify where the root cause of the problem lies. Since you all know like Microsoft has already announced an end of sale for TMG, the two product for a replacement which is ready to take that load is the Netscaler. It can give you all the functionality what has been enabled today with TMG. So if you are looking for a replacement approach, Netscaler is the right product. Okay. When it comes to an corporate email is a top delivery MDM. So Netscaler can get very well integrated with the active sync filtering to identify the known and the unknown users mobile phone to ensure that the corporate applications or the email is always delivered to the known employee mobile phones. Citrix and Cisco together has enabled the SDN in the data center transformation. This has been press release, we all are aware of this. Okay. These are the typical use case, okay, we have with Cisco. When it comes to a 1000V appliance, 1000V is the appliance is in software edition from Citrix, okay, which Cisco is selling in the market directly, supported by Cisco. Okay. The good part is that this get delivered or this get installed as an hypervisor which is running from Cisco on 1100 series appliance. Second key thing is like, you know, like Cisco has already announced ACE as an end of sale product, and it is soon going to be end of life. Okay, so if you are looking at the replacement, we have a ready-made tool that can do the config conversion for you. What I mean to say is, like, if you have a Cisco ACE deployed, you can take this tool, migrate the existing configuration on the fly within 10 minutes, and you are ready to get Netscaler deployed instead of ACE. Third key thing what we have come up with Cisco is, this Netscaler, the hardware appliance of Netscaler can very well integrate with Cisco 7K switches. So RISE is the proprietary protocol which Cisco run inside the Nexus switches to identify the various line cards they have connected. Okay, so once we do this integration, you will see like Netscaler is acting as a line card within the Cisco switch, which means like it will think the Netscaler is a part of a Cisco 7K chassis itself. And when it comes to 9K switches, we very well get integrated using the ACE integration. These are the unique benefits what we try to highlight when it comes to RISE integration. Okay, you can have a bootstrap, means the moment you get a factory box shipped from the Citrix itself, you can just connect directly to one of the 7K switches, the IP address and everything will get automatically allocated to the Netscaler itself. Second unique thing is the auto PBR. So many a times we get a requirement from the application owner saying he want to capture the client IP at the layer 3. Now we need to ensure the return traffic also goes through the Netscaler, otherwise the TCP cycle is incomplete. Now with this approach, what happens, like you need to do lot of routing inside the network to ensure the return traffic is also through the Netscaler. Now with the help of auto PBR configuration, which is supported, it ensures that the return traffic is without doing any ACL or route map, the return traffic is forwarded to the Netscaler on the fly. Third key thing what we want to highlight here is the route health injection. So as we keep on adding the VIP, which acts as a server for the client, the VIP IP will automatically get published inside the network. Since we are moving the Netscaler to a next release, or what the Sheetal has highlighted like SDN, it is in service deliverable network. Okay, today we are ready with other vendors, like you can run their third party instances on top of us. So if you are going with a new infrastructure or you already have a Netscaler SDX with you, you need a firewall module by default. So if you are in a renewal place, you can look at the Palo Alto as a replacement, which is also in the Gartner reader for the firewalls. You can run their virtual machine on the top of the Netscaler. So instead of having a bunch of hardware from various service providers, you can have single hardware from Netscaler and run this customer's virtual machine on top of that. When it comes to manageability, okay, SVM gives you a real-time file management for the Nitros. Okay, it gives you a provision where you can import the Zen server image, Netscaler image, third-party images. Okay, it also gives you a granular level control to the various third-party VMs which are running on the box. So this is possible only through using SVM. SVM is nothing but a service manageable console to manage the multi-tenancy appliances. So with this, I had covered the typical use case what we are trying to identify with Netscaler. Yeah.
How does the Netscaler replace TMG?
So whatever the reverse proxy functionality you have configured today on TMG, the same thing you can do a reconfiguration on the Netscaler itself. So whatever the core functionality TMG is doing today, we can do similar to that. So if you have an existing TMGs in deployment, you are looking for a replacement, okay, whatever the key functionality is there, we can very well do it. On top of that, we can do many other value add in terms of compression, caching and all that.
The key functionality is ACL, user access,
Yeah.
positive and negative site definition.
We can do that very well.
And all that.
Yeah, we also can do.
That is in Netscaler.
So we have a content switching, correct, content filtering, you can do that.
So all these templates are part of Netscaler.
Yes.
It's as simple as TMG.
Yeah, it's as simple as TMG.
So we talked about three different things, during this session. One is the Netscaler for Microsoft environment. So what happened is, like, till Exchange Server 2008, 2010, there was actually no need for a load balancer, right? If you have actually planned Exchange Server 2013, the new, as per the Microsoft architecture, you need a load balancer in front of the CAS servers, CAS arrays, which Exchange Server, arrays, right? So that's where Netscaler plays a major role, some of the pre-optimized functionalities for an Exchange Server environment. For a 2013 SharePoint Link 2013, there is a need for a load balancer. So the question comes is like, should I go and buy a separate vanilla standalone load balancer for that, or can I get that load also onto the Netscaler itself? That's where we talked about initially, bringing multiple use cases onto the Netscaler, which helps you reduce. Why do you want to spend more money on that? You don't need to. You already have a load balancer, Netscaler in place. Get that load also. Create a virtual instance if you want. If you have a Microsoft as a separate division, which is a separate team who is managing it, create an instance, give it off to them. Complete. They will have a complete controlled rights, admin rights, everything separate, right? So you don't invest on a separate hardware. So that is one which we talked about on the Microsoft part. The second thing which we talked about is for a Zen Zen Desktop. Even in Zen Desktop, if you look at, there are multiple use cases which Karthik talked about. But actually, when you see in an architecture, where do you keep these guys? The reverse proxy SSL VPN has to sit in the DMZ only. And there are not too many customers, or I don't think any customer is willing to open up the firewall port in terms of having the load balancer and the reverse proxy to do it on the same appliance. So that's where again SDX is a classic solution, where you create a VM, get him to sit on the perimeter, and he will take care of the reverse proxy SSL VPN part. And you need a load balancer. You definitely need a load balancer, because you are going to have multiple Zen Desktop server farms over there. Somebody has to load balance for a optimize for accelerating the performance over there again. So that's the job of Netscaler there for the Zen Desktop, and it's a very critical role over there. And with HDX inside coming in play now, it becomes very important for all Zen Desktop customers to seriously look at Netscaler to have a complete visibility on the HDX traffic which is going through. And it is only Netscaler who can able to do the HDX inside part, because we only understand, because it's our own protocol. HDX is nothing but a ICA protocol. We understand the protocol pretty well, and we can able to go in depth, and we can able to analyze the packet which flows through when it comes to the HDX part of it. So the third one which we talked about is the Cisco part of it. So Cisco, where there is a lot of things Cisco and Citrix is doing together, particularly on the networking front, right, on the Netscaler front. This kind of tight integration, we talked about the AS migration. AS migration happens on the fly. When I mean on the fly, it's a seamless migration. There are a lot of customers Cisco has sold earlier the application content engine earlier. Now after they made end of sale, what happens is the first vendor to get certified for a AS migration is Netscaler. That means if you have a AS which is running on, and when you want to migrate, on the fly, what we mean is without change of the configuration, without touching anything onto that appliance, you just migrate. We have an exact replacement model for AS and the Netscaler, right? That is what the easy seamless migration which we talk about. And the Nexus 7K and the 9K, we are the first vendor again to be certified on the RISE integration part with the Cisco. Right, so that's a lot of feature. We bring in a lot of new feature functionalities onto, because the layer 4 to layer 7 functionalities for the Nexus 7K and 9K. So the ACI, which is a new concept of Cisco, which is called the application centric infrastructure. You will get to hear more from the Cisco people on the ACI part of it. So Netscaler is already certified for any ACI infrastructure, layer 4 to layer 7 functionalities are delivered by Netscaler. Right, so those are all the three components which we talked about, and again, three different use cases, three different requirements, but Netscaler is one guy who is going to help, place between all these three different use cases. And we initially talked about how do we migrate, or move ahead in terms of the ADC, simple ADC application delivery to a service delivery. And today a lot of people are talking about software defined networking, right? So that's where Netscaler is again, where it's a critical role, where for any SDN, we are Netscaler is tested, certified for any kind of cloud orchestration. Whether it is an OpenStack or Citrix own cloud platform, or whether it is vCloud Director, you can have any orchestration layer over there, and Netscaler plays a critical role over there, right? We have seen a lot of customers of us where, the auto scaling functionality happens through the Netscaler in integration with the orchestration layer, right? So that's again on the SDN front, Netscaler. So we started off with the session, with the how Netscaler can be well utilized for multiple environments, multiple technologies, multiple features and functionalities, use cases which we talked about. And that's where we went ahead, talked about the availability, which is one of the most critical thing, the server, link and the database. And we went in depth, and we guys had taken through in depth in terms of how we can able to ensure the availability of the infrastructure, for any web app environment. And then we talked about the performance as well, different ways at which you can improve the performance, like which we talked about it, and how like a 5 times improvement on the web application with different new terminologies which is coming in, which is very critical for the market. Where like friends talked about the FEO, like those are all very critical thing, because today people are accessing from multiple devices. As Nabil talked in the beginning, like today, like it's like a wedding ring. Everybody has a tab in place and everybody is accessing their infrastructure, their application, like from their tablet device. So if that is the case, resizing of the image and the performance improvement on that particular device is one of the most critical thing that you will achieve it when you have a Netscaler with the FEO like enabled onto that, and immaterial of whatever the device, whichever the network, 2G, 3G, wireless people are coming in from, this guy can able to smartly like improve the performance over there. Third part is the security, which we talked about it on the web application firewall, SSL VPN functionalities, like how critical it is to ensure that like your link is secured and also your infrastructure is secured over there. And we also talked about the manageability and the visibility part of it as well, right? So in a nutshell, like, if you look at Netscaler is a classic solution for any web application requirement. Any apart going beyond web application, for any Microsoft workloads, for any XenApp, XenDocs desktop workloads, for a Cisco infrastructure, like Netscaler plays a significant role over there. So before we move on to the next session, I think we are more or less done with all the key components which we wanted to share with you from the Netscaler front. So before we move on to the next session on the Cloud Bridge, just wanted to check if there are any questions on the Netscaler. So I think we have taken the questions during the sessions over there. I think we are good to move forward. So thank you, Karthik, and then we can now move on to the next.